Most people enter a new year doing the same thing they have always done. They hope. They wish. They quietly ask life for permission to be different, and when nothing changes, they call it fate. But what if the reason 2025 repeated itself was not because you lacked effort, intelligence, or opportunity, but because you misunderstood faith itself? Faith was never meant to be a request sent into the void. Faith is not a plea. It is not a desperate whisper spoken only when circumstances collapse. Faith is a position of the mind. It is an inner decision so firm that reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around it. Napoleon Hill spent decades studying the most successful individuals of his time, and he discovered something unsettling. They did not ask the world to change. They assumed it would. They lived as if the future they desired was already inevitable. Not because they were arrogant, but because their inner conviction left no room for doubt. Faith, as Hill understood it, was not passive belief. It was belief set into motion. It was thought mixed with emotion, decision, and persistence until the invisible hardened into fact. Imagine standing at the end of 2026 looking back, not wishing it had been different, but calmly observing that it unfolded exactly as expected. Not because life was easy, but because your inner posture never wavered. The difference between those who materialize their future and those who only talk about it is not luck. It is alignment. It is the quiet, unshakable knowing that what you decide internally must eventually appear externally. And here is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. The universe does not respond to need. It responds to certainty. It does not reward begging. It mirrors expectation. The moment you stop asking and start assuming, everything changes. And once you understand this, 2026 stops being a hope and becomes an appointment. This is where faith stops being religious language and becomes a creative force. And once you grasp this distinction, you can never return to the old way of thinking again. If this message resonates with you, comment below where you are watching from and write on the channel. Are you watching this as a believer who asks, or as one who decides? You were never meant to beg life for outcomes. You were meant to command direction through conviction. Faith, when properly understood, is not a request sent upward. It is an inner alignment that moves outward. The moment you decide something with emotional certainty, you send a signal far more powerful than words. You are not informing the world of what you want. You are declaring what you expect. But here is where most people misunderstand the process. They believe faith begins after circumstances improve, and that belief quietly sabotages everything, because true faith begins before evidence appears. It begins in the absence of proof. It begins when logic says wait, and fear says be careful. Yet something deeper says this is already done. Most people fail here, not because they lack belief, but because they allow appearances to override inner decision. They feel inspired one moment, then allow doubt to renegotiate that decision the next. Faith cannot materialize under negotiation. It only responds to finality. Here is the cliff most never cross, the moment when you stop asking if it will work and start acting as if it must. This is where the shift happens. Napoleon Hill called this definiteness of purpose. Not desire, not hope, definiteness. A clear, emotionally charged decision that refuses to be diluted by delay or contradiction. When this decision is made, the subconscious mind begins working in ways you cannot consciously track. Ideas appear, opportunities surface. People enter your path at precisely the right moment, and from the outside, it looks like luck, but it isn't. It is alignment. Faith is the emotional fuel that locks this decision into place. Without emotion, belief is fragile. With emotion, belief becomes instruction. The subconscious does not respond to words, it responds to feeling. When you feel something as inevitable, your behavior shifts automatically. Your tone changes, your posture changes. Your choices become sharper, and the world responds to this internal order. This is why asking keeps people trapped. Asking reinforces the idea that the outcome is outside of them. Assuming places the outcome within, and the mind always works to externalize what it accepts internally. Think about this carefully. Every major achievement you admire came from someone who acted long before results justified confidence. They moved first. Reality followed second. This is not recklessness. It is faith correctly applied. If 2026 is going to materialize differently for you, it will not begin with a request. It will begin with a decision so firm that hesitation no longer has authority. And once that decision is made, something subtle but irreversible begins to happen. The question is not whether it will work. The question is whether you are willing to stop asking and start standing. Because in the next chapter, you'll discover why most people abandon faith right before it starts producing results, and how to ensure you never make that mistake again. Most people quit faith at the exact moment it begins to work, not because they lose belief entirely, but because they misread silence as denial. They assume that if nothing visible is happening, nothing is happening at all. This misunderstanding has quietly ended more dreams than failure ever could. Faith does not announce its progress. It operates underground, restructuring causes long before effects are allowed to surface. And if you do not understand this law, impatience will undo what certainty has already set in motion. The human mind is conditioned to expect immediate confirmation. We live in a world trained by instant responses, fast feedback, and constant validation. But the creative laws that govern results do not operate on urgency. They operate on order. When you make a definitive decision, reality does not rush, it reorganizes. And reorganization takes time. The delay is not resistance, it is preparation. Napoleon Hill observed that every major breakthrough is preceded by a period he called temporary defeat. Not because the individual failed, but because the subconscious was still aligning behavior, perception, and opportunity. The tragedy is that most people interpret this phase incorrectly. They see the absence of results and assume their faith was misplaced. In truth, this is the phase where faith is being tested for purity. Faith mixed with conditions collapses under delay. Faith rooted in decision grows stronger in silence. This is where separation happens. Two people can make the same declaration, speak the same affirmations, even feel the same excitement in the beginning. Weeks pass. Circumstances remain unchanged. One person interprets the delay as evidence it won't work. The other interprets the delay as evidence it must work. From that moment on, their paths diverge permanently. The second person has crossed an invisible threshold. They no longer need reassurance. Their faith has shifted from emotion to identity. They do not believe something will happen. They behave as someone for whom it is inevitable. And behavior, not words, is what the subconscious obeys. Here is a truth rarely discussed. Faith is not proven by what you say when you feel inspired, but by what you do when nothing is happening. Silence is the arena where faith either matures or dissolves. If you continue to act, prepare, and think in alignment with your decision during quiet seasons, you signal certainty. And certainty activates forces far beyond conscious effort. This is why desperation blocks results. Desperation communicates doubt. It tells the subconscious that the outcome is uncertain, that you are waiting for permission from circumstances. Faith, by contrast, does not seek permission. It proceeds. Consider how nature operates. A seed planted underground shows no visible progress for a long time. No rational observer would dig it up daily to check if it's working. Yet people do this with their goals constantly. They disturb the process with worry, comparison, and second-guessing. Faith requires the discipline to leave the seed undisturbed. Most people are not lacking faith, they are leaking it. Every time you mentally revisit the question, is this really going to happen? You reopen a decision that should have been final, and the subconscious does not move forward under indecision. It pauses. It waits for clarity. That pause is often misinterpreted as failure. But those who materialize outcomes understand something subtle. Once the decision is made, the role of the conscious mind is no longer to question, but to maintain direction. You do not need constant excitement. You need consistency. Faith does not demand enthusiasm every day. It demands loyalty. This is where faith stops being emotional and becomes structural. When your routines align with your decision, faith stabilizes. When your conversations reflect expectation instead of doubt, faith strengthens. When your attention stays focused on direction instead of timing, faith compounds. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, external reality begins to bend. Opportunities do not arrive loudly. They arrive disguised as ordinary moments, a conversation, an idea, a sudden impulse to act. Those who are waiting for signs often miss them because they expect spectacle. Faith-trained individuals recognize alignment in subtlety, and then something shifts. Momentum begins to build. At first, it's internal. You feel calmer, more certain, less reactive. Your confidence no longer spikes and crashes with circumstances. It stabilizes. That stability sends a powerful signal. People respond differently to you. Situations resolve faster. Resistance decreases. This is not coincidence. It is coherence. When your inner state becomes consistent, the external world reflects it with increasing speed. Faith accelerates once doubt stops interfering. The delay phase ends not when you try harder, but when you stop wavering. This is why some people experience sudden breakthroughs after long periods of nothing. From the outside, it looks abrupt. From the inside, it was earned through quiet endurance. 2026 will not be shaped by the moments when you feel inspired. It will be shaped by the moments when nothing confirms your belief, and you choose to maintain it anyway. And yet, even understanding this, many people unknowingly sabotage themselves in a different way. They confuse faith with force. They believe faith means pushing, controlling, or exhausting themselves into results. But force and faith are not the same. One creates resistance, the other creates flow. And if you don't understand the difference, effort becomes friction. In the next chapter, you'll discover why forcing outcomes actually delays them, and how the most powerful form of faith operates without strain, pressure, or burnout. There is a silent line between effort that builds and effort that breaks. Most people cross it without noticing. They believe that if faith is not producing results yet, the answer must be more force, more pushing, more pressure, more self-control. But faith was never designed to exhaust you. It was designed to organize you. And when effort becomes heavy, it is often a signal that alignment has been replaced by anxiety. True faith does not feel frantic. It feels grounded. It does not rush ahead of itself, nor does it freeze in hesitation. It moves with clarity. Napoleon Hill warned that excessive strain is often a sign of inner conflict, one part of the mind declaring belief, while another quietly prepares for disappointment. This internal contradiction leaks energy, and when energy leaks, results slow down. The people who materialize outcomes consistently are not always the ones working the hardest. They are the ones working from coherence. Their actions are fewer, but sharper. Their focus is narrower, but deeper. They are not scattered by urgency, because urgency implies fear of loss. Faith does not fear loss. Faith assumes continuity. This is why force creates resistance. When you attempt to control every variable, you communicate mistrust in the process you claim to believe in. The subconscious interprets this as uncertainty and responds by withholding momentum, not as punishment, but as protection. The mind does not commit fully to directions that are constantly questioned. Faith, properly applied, removes the need to overmanage. It allows you to act decisively and then release attachment to immediate outcomes. You do your part with excellence, then you step back without anxiety. This balance is rare and it is powerful. Notice how the most impactful decisions in your life likely came from moments of calm clarity, not frantic effort. When the decision was right, action felt natural. When it was wrong, action felt heavy. Faith sharpens this intuition. It teaches you when to move and when to wait, not passively, but attentively. Waiting in faith is not inaction. It is readiness. This is where many people misunderstand the idea of letting go. They assume it means disengagement. In truth, it means releasing emotional tension while maintaining direction. You do not let go of the vision. You let go of fear surrounding it. This frees mental energy and restores creativity. And creativity is the real engine of materialization. When pressure dissolves, ideas surface. New pathways reveal themselves. You begin to see options you couldn't see while forcing outcomes. Conversations flow differently. Timing improves. You are no longer chasing life, you are responding to it intelligently. This shift marks a turning point. From this moment forward, your role changes. You stop trying to prove faith and you start living from it. Your behavior becomes cleaner. You say no more often. You protect your focus. You no longer entertain distractions disguised as opportunities. Faith refines your discernment. And then something subtle happens. Results begin arriving with less effort than expected, not because you stopped working, but because your work is now synchronized with belief instead of compensating for doubt. This is when people around you start saying things like, "It seems like things just fall into place for you." They don't see the inner discipline. They don't see the restraint. They only see the flow. But flow is not luck. It is alignment sustained over time. As 2026 approaches, this distinction becomes critical. The year will not reward those who burn themselves out trying to force change. It will respond to those who move with clarity, patience, and inner authority. Faith is not about intensity. It is about consistency without strain. And yet, even when force is removed, another challenge remains, one that quietly dismantles faith from within: identity. Because if your self-image contradicts your decision, no amount of belief will hold. In the next chapter, you will uncover why identity is the final gate faith must pass through, and how changing who you see yourself as unlocks everything you have been working toward. Before anything changes permanently on the outside, something must shift on the inside that most people never question: identity. Not personality, not confidence, identity. The silent answer to the question, who am I being as I move through the world? Faith cannot rise higher than the self-image that contains it. If you decide on a future that contradicts how you see yourself, the mind will quietly sabotage progress to restore familiarity. This is why so many people start strong and fade slowly. They make powerful declarations, set ambitious goals, and feel genuine excitement. But beneath the surface, their identity remains anchored to an old story. And identity always wins, not because the goal is wrong, but because the mind prioritizes consistency over success. Napoleon Hill understood this deeply. He taught that the subconscious mind accepts whatever identity is impressed upon it through repeated thought, emotion, and behavior. Once accepted, it works tirelessly to express that identity in tangible form. Faith, then, is not just belief in an outcome. It is loyalty to a new version of yourself before evidence appears. This is uncomfortable work, because changing identity requires releasing familiar patterns, old reactions, old excuses, old ways of interpreting setbacks. You are not just pursuing a different result, you are becoming a different person, and the mind resists this at first, not out of malice, but out of habit. The critical mistake most people make is waiting for results to grant permission to change who they are. But identity does not follow results. Results follow identity. The moment you begin behaving as the person who already belongs to the future you desire, the subconscious receives a clear signal, and clarity accelerates everything. This does not mean pretending or posturing. It means alignment. How does the version of you who has already materialized 2026 think? How do they make decisions? How do they respond to pressure, delay, or criticism? These are not abstract questions. They are daily instructions. Every time you choose the response aligned with your future self instead of your past conditioning, you reinforce a new identity. At first, it feels unnatural. That is normal. Growth always feels unfamiliar, but repetition stabilizes change, and once stabilized, the new identity becomes automatic. This is where faith becomes embodied. You no longer need to remind yourself what you believe. Your behavior reflects it without effort. You speak differently, not louder, but cleaner. You stop over-explaining. You stop defending your direction. Confidence becomes quiet, and quiet confidence is persuasive. People respond to identity before they respond to words. Opportunities begin to meet you at the level of who you are being, not who you were. This is why some doors never opened before, not because they were locked, but because you were not yet aligned with what they required. As identity shifts, time perception changes. You feel less rushed, less anxious, more deliberate. Faith grounded in identity is patient because it no longer doubts its place. It does not chase validation. It expects alignment, and this expectation subtly alters outcomes. The external world adjusts to internal order. This is not mysticism. It is psychology and cause and effect working together. When your identity stabilizes, your choices stabilize. When your choices stabilize, your results compound. But there is one final barrier that often appears right here. The moment identity shifts, the environment pushes back. Old relationships test you. Old patterns resurface. Discomfort increases briefly, not as punishment, but as confirmation that change is real. Many people retreat at this stage, mistaking resistance for a sign they are wrong. In truth, resistance often signals that you are finally right. And in the next chapter, you will learn how to recognize this resistance not as an obstacle, but as evidence that your faith is about to produce visible, undeniable results. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive more inspiring content like this. When internal change becomes real, the external world reacts. Not gently and not always kindly. This reaction is what stops most people just steps away from manifestation. Resistance appears disguised as inconvenience, misunderstanding, delay, or unexpected opposition. And if you are not prepared, you will interpret this moment as a warning, when it is actually a confirmation. Every meaningful shift in identity triggers contrast. The environment tests coherence. It asks, silently, is this who you really are now, or is this just a temporary state? Faith answers this question not with emotion, but with consistency. If you retreat, the world relaxes back into the old pattern. If you stand, the pattern breaks. Napoleon Hill referred to this phase as the final proving ground. Not because something external is judging you, but because the subconscious is verifying alignment. When pressure increases, unconscious habits attempt to reassert control. Old fears whisper, old doubts resurface, and the temptation to compromise appears reasonable. This is where many people mistake peace for safety. They return to what feels familiar, not realizing that familiarity is often disguised limitation. Faith requires tolerating temporary discomfort without abandoning direction. The discomfort is not a sign of danger. It is friction between who you were and who you are becoming. Here is the key distinction. Resistance does not mean stop. Confusion means stop. Resistance means continue with clarity. When you are aligned, opposition sharpens you. It does not scatter you. Your focus narrows. Your values become non-negotiable. You no longer seek approval. You seek coherence. This inner discipline sends a powerful signal. The subconscious responds by reinforcing the new identity rather than reverting to the old one. This is also when external validation begins to shift. Some people drift away, others step forward unexpectedly. Conversations change tone. Opportunities arise that require you to commit fully. Partial belief is no longer enough. Faith now demands embodiment, and embodiment requires courage. Not dramatic courage, but quiet refusal to self-abandon. You stop explaining your decisions to people who cannot see your direction. You stop negotiating with doubt. You do not escalate effort, nor do you withdraw. You proceed calmly. This calm is misunderstood by those still operating from anxiety. They may interpret it as arrogance or detachment. In reality, it is certainty without noise. Faith at this stage no longer seeks evidence. It recognizes momentum. Momentum, however, is subtle before it is visible. Small confirmations appear. A message arrives at the right moment. A problem resolves unexpectedly. A door opens that was previously ignored. These are not miracles. They are alignment effects. They indicate that the internal shift has stabilized enough for reality to respond. This is the moment many people prematurely celebrate or relax. They assume the work is done. But faith, like momentum, must be maintained until the result fully materializes. Relaxation is not abandonment, but complacency is. The difference is awareness. You remain attentive without being tense, engaged without being desperate. Faith at this level is mature. It does not spike or crash. It holds steady. As 2026 takes shape, this steadiness becomes your advantage. While others react to external volatility, you remain internally anchored. And anchored individuals are trusted by people, by circumstances, by opportunity itself. Yet even here, one final refinement remains: gratitude, not as politeness, but as positioning. Because how you relate to what you already have determines whether what is coming can stay. In the next chapter, you will discover why gratitude is not the end of the process, but the mechanism that locks manifestation into permanence. Gratitude is often misunderstood as something you practice after success arrives, a response, a courtesy. But in the architecture of faith, gratitude comes before the result fully appears. It is not a reaction, it is a position. It signals to the subconscious that what is unfolding is already integrated, already safe, already yours to carry responsibly. When gratitude is absent, desire becomes restless, and restless desire destabilizes faith. You may reach the outcome, but you won't be able to hold it. This is why some people achieve what they wanted only to lose it shortly after. Their inner posture never adjusted to stewardship. Faith brings results. Gratitude sustains them. Napoleon Hill taught that appreciation keeps the mind in a state of receptivity. A grateful mind is not anxious. It is open. It is not grasping. It is grounded. This state allows ideas, opportunities, and relationships to continue flowing without resistance. Gratitude tells life, I am prepared for continuity. This does not mean ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It means acknowledging progress without fear of losing it. Gratitude stabilizes success because it removes the subconscious fear that improvement is temporary. When fear dissolves, faith no longer has to defend itself. Here is where many people subtly sabotage momentum. They achieve partial results and immediately shift into vigilance. They guard, protect, and worry. They stop trusting the process that brought them there. This anxiety communicates mistrust, and mistrust slows expansion. Gratitude, by contrast, communicates confidence. It says, more can come because I am not overwhelmed by what is already here. This internal message matters. The subconscious responds to emotional posture more than achievement itself. A simple practice reinforces this posture, acknowledging alignment in small moments. A timely conversation, a clear decision, a calm response where you once reacted emotionally. These are signals that faith is active. Gratitude amplifies them. This amplification compounds results. You begin to experience stability, not just in outcomes, but in identity. You no longer swing between doubt and certainty. You settle into expectation, and expectation, when calm, is magnetic. As 2026 approaches, gratitude protects you from comparison. You stop measuring your progress against others and start honoring your own trajectory. This frees mental energy and preserves clarity. Faith thrives in uncluttered attention, and then something important happens. You begin to trust yourself, not in an inflated way, but in a grounded one. You trust your decisions, you trust your pacing, you trust your intuition. This self-trust completes the circuit. Faith no longer feels like effort, it feels like agreement. Agreement between thought, emotion, and action. From this place, materialization accelerates naturally. You are no longer asking, pushing, or proving. You are cooperating, and cooperation is efficient. But there is one final step that determines whether this momentum carries fully into 2026 or fades quietly at the threshold. Direction. Because faith without direction is powerful, but incomplete. And in the final chapter, you will learn how to seal everything you've built into a clear, uncompromising path. So 2026 does not just arrive differently, but unfolds exactly as intended. Direction is what gives faith its shape. Without it, belief becomes scattered energy, powerful but unfocused. Many people believe deeply, feel sincerely, and even change internally. yet still drift because they never lock faith into a clear path. Faith initiates movement. Direction sustains it. As 2026 approaches, this distinction matters more than ever. Direction is not rigidity. It is commitment without confusion. It is knowing what you are available for and what you are no longer willing to entertain. When direction is clear, faith no longer wastes energy responding to distractions. It moves forward with quiet authority. Napoleon Hill emphasized definiteness not because life demands certainty, but because the mind does. The subconscious cannot execute vague instructions. It responds to clarity. When your direction is defined, even loosely but sincerely, the mind begins filtering reality accordingly. You notice what matters. You ignore what doesn't. This selective focus is not accidental. It is creative. Most people fail to materialize not because they lack faith, but because they divide it. Too many options. Too many backup plans rooted in fear. Too many compromises made to avoid discomfort. Direction requires choosing a path and staying with it long enough for momentum to mature. This does not mean refusing adjustment. It means adjusting without abandoning. Faith-driven direction allows refinement without retreat. You learn, you adapt, but you do not reverse your inner decision every time conditions shift. Here is the simplest test of direction. When faced with uncertainty, do you default to your future or your past? Those who live by faith answer instinctively. Their decisions point forward, even when clarity is incomplete. They move with intention, not impulse, and over time, intention compounds. Direction also simplifies life. When you know where you are going, you stop explaining yourself. You stop chasing approval. You stop reacting emotionally to opinions that do not align with your path. This emotional economy preserves energy, and energy is the currency of creation. By now, you may realize something important. Faith was never about asking for permission. It was about assuming responsibility. Responsibility for your inner state. Responsibility for your identity. Responsibility for your direction. Once accepted, this responsibility becomes liberating. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are choosing, and choice is power. As 2026 unfolds, circumstances will continue to change, some unpredictably, some suddenly. But those anchored in faith and guided by direction remain steady. They do not need guarantees. They trust alignment. This trust is not naive. It is trained. Trained through silence, through resistance, through identity shifts, through gratitude, through restraint. Each phase refined your faith from belief into embodiment. Now there is nothing left to ask for, only something to live. 2026 does not require your hope. It responds to your posture. Stand as someone who expects coherence. Move as someone who trusts alignment. Decide as someone who knows that faith, once assumed, does not retreat. Because the future does not arrive by request. It arrives by agreement. And the moment you stopped asking, you began materializing. If this message reached you, it's not accidental. You didn't find this video, you aligned with it. Somewhere along the way, something inside you recognized the truth that faith is not a request, not a ritual, not a last resort. Faith is a decision assumed so completely that reality has no alternative but to follow. Now pause for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, are you entering 2026 asking life for permission or stepping into it with agreement? Because from this point forward, awareness changes responsibility. You cannot unsee what you now understand. Faith is no longer something you talk about. It is something you embody. Every thought you sustain, every decision you reinforce, every action you repeat is casting a vote for the version of reality you will live in. So choose carefully. If this message resonated, write in the comments where you're watching from and share one decision you are no longer asking for, only assuming. When you put it into words, you anchor it into identity. And if you're ready to live from faith instead of hope, stay connected to this channel. What comes next is not motivation, it's alignment, because the future doesn't respond to desire, it responds to certainty, and 2026 is already listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive more inspiring content like this. See you tomorrow.